Hello there, I'm Azara Tagaya and welcome to another episode of Ringgit Cents Plus. Now this week we're talking about the subject of telecommunications and connectivity. Now besides water and electricity, the internet and our smartphones have become two things that we cannot live without these days. So what do you do when you're faced with bad connectivity and your complaints are falling on deaf ears? Well, we spoke to the Consumer Forum of Malaysia, or CFM, an agency under the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commissions. Now, CFM's job is to receive complaints from consumers about internet and telco services in Malaysia. While broadband prices may have come down over the last few months, unfortunately, the number of complaints have also gone up, with billing disputes and service disruption making up the highest number of complaints. We came to CFM with this question. Now, should consumers ask for a rebate from their service provider if they suffer downtime in their service?
It is quite difficult questions to answer actually. What you are asking is some kind of rebate for non-service availability. On one hand, there are mandatory standards on quality of service that mandate certain service ability or certain allowable downtime for internet service, for example, house internet, fiber or line wired broadband, for example. But to the customers, there are no clear-cut SOP or processes that have been put in place on how to address major downtime that takes a lot of times. So there's always been a negotiation or rather and push by certain parties like the regulator, by CFM for service provider to undertake compensation mechanism or a rebate, for example, to customers that has been affected. It has happened before. For example, a few years ago, there was a major down in the mobile service during Hari Raya break. So the telco, upon discussion, take initiative to offer certain free services like free calls and free SMS during certain period to compensate for the downtime that has been faced by the customers. There's also rebates that have been given for downtime for wired broadband at homes, but on case-to-case basis upon discussion and negotiation between the parties involved, which is the customer as well as service providers.
Before signing up for any contract, read the terms and conditions. For customers who complain of no coverage in certain areas, Azizan says consumers should ask beforehand what's the coverage like at their workplace and at their home address before signing up.
First, if you are staying at area A, you make query to your service provider, is my area covered? Because they are obligated to advise customers which areas have coverage or which areas does not have coverage. And most of packages without device subsidies are not contracted. But if you are subscribing to a service which have a lot of benefits, for example, device subsidies or free devices, for example, of course you will be contracted for 12 or 24 months. And once you are contracted, it's very difficult for you to get out. Then the advice is first to make query to ask your service providers whether you have areas or not. But if happen to be that you have subscribed and suddenly for whatever reason earlier there was a coverage and suddenly not, you can lodge your complaints to CFM. We will try to mediate because there will be always a resolution that can satisfy both parties.
According to CFM, there is a standard operating procedure on how complaints should be handled. The first person you should complain to is the service provider. If you don't hear back from them after 3 working days, then you can send a complaint to CFM. Otherwise, if you do hear back from the service provider, but you're still not happy with the resolution, then you can still contact CFM. While CFM does not have any enforcement power, it can report to the Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission, or MCMC, for further action. We also asked Azizan what happens if the area you stay in does not get high-speed fiber optics internet service. For example, half of the houses in the area you stay in get high-speed internet, while your house in the same area is only limited to lower-speed copper line internet. What should consumers do in this situation?
Some areas will be covered, some areas will not be covered, some services are available, some services are not available due to the availability and capacity of the service. In one area of 1,000 homes, the potential capacity could be not maximum 1,000. In a lot of situations, it's much less than that because the anticipation is not 100% will subscribe. So if there is more demand from that particular areas, the service providers usually will provide additional capacity to cater for the service.
He added coverage may not be as good in remote areas because the service provider might not find it profitable to serve the area. But the government, through its long-term Universal Service Provision Fund, will provide internet service to those areas. If you want to reach CFM, you can visit their website at aduan.skmm.gov.my. Or if you have no internet or phone service and want to talk to a real person, then you can drop in at their office at Cyberjaya. So far, the government has already reduced broadband prices by 56%, and through the long-term National Fiberization and Connectivity Plan, Azizan says that the cost of using internet services in Malaysia is expected to come down further. So there may still be more good news for Malaysian internet users in the months ahead. Well, CFM says it's important for them to get feedback from the public so that it can help MCMC to formulate policies that will better improve internet and telco services in Malaysia. Well, after the break, we're taking a look at telco packages. Should you sign up for a phone contract with a telco company, or should you just go ahead and buy the phone on your own? Which is cheaper? And what are the things that you should consider? Stay with us to find out. In the meantime, go to our Facebook and YouTube page to learn more about personal finance and also to share the interviews you've watched today. Back in a minute. Welcome back. Now, every time a brand new phone is launched in the market, telecommunication companies or telcos will snap up this opportunity with various packages that offer you the chance to own the phone, but with the added aspect of signing on to a telco contract. Now, will taking up such advantages really save you money? Or would you just be better off just buying the phone straight from the retailer and not be bound by any contracts? Well, we spoke to Pang Yun Tao, the senior editor at RinggitPlus, to find out what are the questions you should be asking yourself before making a decision.
We actually did a comparison of all the postpaid contract plans for the new iPhones, which came up a few months ago. And we found that on average, based on different price points, on similar price points, all the telco plans are going to save you about the same amount every month. At the end of the 24-month contract. We did the table that compares them by price every month, how much you need to pay every month, and we realized that over the course of 24 months, the amount of savings that you make at the end of your contract, including the device price, comes out to about the same. We found that there was actually about savings of about 1,500 ringgit. Are you going to be comfortable with being tied down to a 2-year contract and save about 1,500 ringgit in the process? If you are really looking to get that new phone, I don't see a reason why you should not be taking advantage of something like this, because a savings of about 1,500 ringgit over 2 years, you probably be very difficult to find that kind of discount of retail or even online.
So it all comes down to which telco you prefer and if you're going to be satisfied with having the same phone for 2 years. With major phone manufacturers like Apple releasing new models every year, you have to ask yourself, are you the type who would want to upgrade your phone every year? If you decide to sign a 2-year contract and decide by the 2nd year that you want to upgrade your phone, it can be costly to get out of the contract. According to Pang, some telcos will allow you to upgrade your contract for a newer phone, but not downgrade the contract. With so many different telco packages on offer these days, how do you determine which one is the best for you?
I think when you're moving between telcos and you're thinking of switching to a different telco provider, the same considerations of choosing a home internet plan comes into play as well. First and foremost, it is about coverage. This time around, you need to consider whether the network is covered both in your home as well as your workplace. Most telcos actually have a coverage website that shows whether their network's strong or whether it's covered in whichever areas in the country. And the second thing is actually about price, how much you're willing to pay every month. Bundling like free calls, free SMS. So it all comes down to how much you're willing to pay in a month.
What are the things you should consider when choosing an internet package for your home?
The first and most important factor is actually coverage. It will determine whether you are going to choose a fiber plan or a copper plan. A copper internet connection is an older one. So usually most urban places are now covered by fiber, which is great because thanks to the MSAP, all fiber broadband plans these days are a lot cheaper compared to what they used to be. So for example, what used to be a 200 ringgit, 300 ringgit plus plan are now about at least half their prices. So a 30 Mbps plan today would cost you only at least 79 ringgit a month compared to 179 before this.
Another factor to consider is the number of users and the frequency of usage. A family of about 5 people, each with their device streaming YouTube and playing online games, you will need at least 100 megabits per second. On the other hand, you may have a relatively smaller family, but with high usage that includes a lot of streaming and downloading, then it would be a good idea to look at higher internet speeds of maybe 50 or 100 Mbps.
If you're renting, I don't think you'll be looking to get a home internet package, right? So that leaves you with either a mobile broadband plan or your own mobile plan on your smartphone, right? So again, it depends on what type of user you are. If you're the type that streams videos on YouTube all the time, or you're a drama junkie on Netflix, for example, then I think a mobile data connection that is with a lot more data, I think that would suit you a lot better. These days, a lot of postpaid plans come with a lot more data than you need every month. So the question then comes back down to coverage and what type of quality of service do you have. For me, I believe that when it comes to data plans, what you pay for is what you usually get. So a better quality connection usually is a bit more expensive compared to the others.
According to Pang, the concept of prepaid and postpaid telco plans are also evolving to suit the demands of today's consumers.
For mobile data plans, I think when we look at postpaid specifically, there's a lot of, we have so much data these days that we don't actually need to really consider the quotas anymore. An average user, I think, uses about 7 gigs of data in a month, but even for the lowest plan of about like maybe 80 ringgit a month, you're getting about 10 to 15 gigs of data allocation for you. So I don't think that's really much of a reason. So if you look at the prepaid side, we even have newer types of plans, like they call it a hybrid plan, which combines the convenience of a postpaid plan with the flexibility of choosing what type of usage do you want to pay for. So that's more of a prepaid benefit, and it's all rolled into one. So it's a really interesting concept, but I think it's only been about a year plus since they've introduced these plans.
After the break, we're going to be talking about phone scams. What do you do when you get a call from someone claiming to be from a bank telling you that you owe them money? How do you know if the call is genuine or not? Well, the answers after this. Meanwhile, if you want to share the interviews from today, visit us on Facebook and YouTube, where you can learn more about personal finance. Back with me, Azara Tagaya, on Ringgit Sense Plus. Now, while the cost of using the internet and telco services in Malaysia has gotten cheaper, cybercrimes are also on the rise. According to the police, last year there were 346 cases of Macau scams. And for this year, up to November, there have already been 469 cases reported. Now, the total amount of losses is almost 53 million ringgit. So what are Macau scams? By now, you or someone you know has probably gotten this call before. A scammer claiming that they're from a bank, saying that you owe them money and money must be immediately transferred to another account. Now, when you look at the caller ID, it says it's the customer service center of the bank. So what do you do in this situation? Well, we spoke to CIMB Bank to ask them about what consumers can do to better protect themselves. According to Kwan Kin Yu, Group Chief Compliance Officer at CIMB Group, scammers are always evolving.
What we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years is through technology. We have seen love scams. We have also seen what we call Macau scam, or also known as telco scam. And we have seen what we call financing scam. In Malay, they call it pinjaman tak wujud. And we have also seen commerce scam. And maybe just start with the love scam. And it's very easy for people to get befriended through Facebook. And what we find is that a lot of these so-called friends does not turn out to be friends. And they end up scamming you. And we've seen many people has lost money through these love scams. Number two, in relation to telco scams or Macau scams, normally what you get is a phone call from an unknown party. It's important that you take a step back and think through where these calls are coming from. If it's unknown to you or if it's too good to be true, it's important that you then hang up these phone calls. Most likely, it's a telco scam that's coming through your phone. I think thirdly, where it comes to pinjaman tak wujud or what we call financing scam, it's always we find people borrowing money through Facebook, through WeChat, through WhatsApp, responding to a request or responding to an offer to borrow money. And most of them are fraudulent or are scams. So do not believe some of these WeChat messages or WhatsApp messages or your Facebook messages that you receive. I think the last one is the easy one. A lot of us like to buy things through the various websites. It's important that we ensure that the source is actually genuine. I think those are the popular type of scams.
Scammers can now spoof phone numbers, so when you look up the caller ID, it shows the phone number of a bank or court.
In today's technology, it's very easy for people to use voice over internet protocol calls, and a lot of times the number is the same number as what you find the normal numbers from either the police or the mahkamah or courts or from a bank, right? But when you try to call back, you normally won't be able to get through and with the same number. So do not believe these numbers that you see on your phone, and do not believe, do not even try to determine whether the phone call is genuine or not. What you need to do is actually, if it's a call from the police, go to the police station and verify the information. If it's a call from the courts, go to the courts and verify personally or physically to determine whether it's true. And similarly, if it's a call from the bank, walk up to the nearest branch and verify if such call, or even call the contact center to determine whether such calls are genuine.
The latest type of scam that has been detected is when you get a message on your phone telling you a sob story of how the bank accidentally sent a transaction authorization code or TAC to your phone, and they want you to send it to this scammer instead. A TAC is the final line of defense before your money can be transferred online. Don't do it. Most of the scammers will not open a bank account themselves to receive the money. Instead, they will use mule accounts or another person's account to receive the money of those who they have conned.
Mule accounts, and unknown to many people, is that there are people who give up or their own account to be operated by a third party for many reasons. One is if they were being pressured by a third party, or if we have seen people who owe money to money lenders and money lenders has requested for their account to be surrendered to them. And we have also seen many people buying bank accounts from the public. The message here is really you cannot and you must not share or offer the operation of your bank account to a third party. And most importantly, you cannot and must not sell your own bank account to a third party. If you allow a third party to operate your account, you will be considered a mule for the fraudster or for a scammer. And under the law, you could be prosecuted under the Penal Code as well as the Anti-Money Laundering Act.
Sometimes these scams happen over a few days. This is why it's important for victims to talk to someone like the bank or the authorities to prevent further losses.
Many a times we find that victims will lose their money in a matter of an hour or 2 hours, and it's very, very difficult to actually get your money back. So most importantly, the advice is that the moment you realize that you've been scammed, it's important that you contact the bank as well as contact the police. Our advice is always to make a police report and make sure that you put down the relevant account number and then call up the contact center of the bank in which you transfer the money to make it known to them that there is a mule account in the bank itself. Where possible, most banks in the industry will try to hold the money and help you trace the money if possible. But in most incidents that we have experienced, it's very unlikely that the money will have gone anyway. It's very unlikely that you will be able to recall the money.
Prevention is still the best answer, and that is why CIMB is working with the police to educate the public about these type of scams. Well, we hope the tips that we shared today have been useful for you as a consumer. If you want to share what you watched today with your friends, find us on Facebook and YouTube. For those of you who have problems or questions about your personal finance, drop us a message on Facebook. We've already received a few inquiries and have forwarded your questions to the Financial Planning Association of Malaysia. We'll be covering that in a later financial makeover episode. Until next week, I'm Azaria Tagaya. Invest and save wisely.